Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of the Next Gen Bets podcast.
Delta Dawn, what's that flower you have on?
Today, we're going to be talking about the first round of the college football playoffs. We're going to be going over our bets for the Friday night game and then the games on Saturday. Um, it's going to be a great weekend. I'm pumped for it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited to do these bets. Is this the first time we've done college bets on this channel?
We've talked them. We haven't made them officially, so yes.
So this is our first official college bets. Um, So, anyways, I guess we'll just hop right into it and we're going to kick it off with the first game that we're going to experience, the first college football playoff game, which is Indiana playing in South Bend against Notre Dame on Friday at 8 o'clock. What do you got, Kyle?
Yeah, quick note, the line opened at -8.5 in favor of Notre Dame is down to around -7. So that's worth noting. I think we talked about how it was at 8.5 in last week's college football, the little preview we did there. What I have in this game is what I like in all these games really is I think the lines are sloppy, but I don't like the lines directly. I'm a big fan of the alt lines, just getting more value out of them. So this is the one game I think that is high scoring. I'm taking Notre Dame -2.5 alt spread there. That alt spread's -248, and combining that with the alt over 44.5 total points -228 together, that gives me a nice +102 parlay. Made that on Caesars, so it's a little under a unit to win 1 unit with a +102. What I like about this one is I think Indiana scores well. Their only other test against Ohio State, they were very sloppy, and I don't think they have that issue because they have, played in a tough environment like Notre Dame in Ohio State. They're not going to have like issues with the weather. They're, a North team as well, so it's not like I think we'll talk about that a little bit in SMU Penn State. I know the Penn State fans think they have a big advantage in that. Um, but yeah, I still think Notre Dame wins. I kind of like them by a touchdown. Like if the 6.5 was like even money, not -140, we probably would have took that. But we can make it them winning by a field goal and a good amount of points scored in this game. 40 is 44 would be a nice 20, no, 24-20, or no, that'd be 1 point. 24-21 would get us there. That'd be like the closest we could have. So anything greater than that, we're chilling. I like this one a lot, I think. I know you didn't want to stay away from this one because it's a bit personal for you, but
Yeah, this
uh
is this is definitely a personal game for me. I looked at a lot of lines. I wanted to bet it originally. I wanted to. I do like Notre Dame favored in the game. I don't like 7.5. That's what the odds were that I was looking at. I'd like six
yeah.
and a half, but like Kyle mentioned, you can't get 6.5 at a good value on ESPN bet. It's at -130. On FanDuel, it's at -140, but that's just not good value. So I didn't like that. And then I don't really know how to feel about the over-under for this game because Notre Dame's good defensively. And then on paper, Indiana is decent at defense, but they both really haven't played elite teams. I mean, Indiana obviously played Ohio State, but we know how that went. Um, so I'm a little nervous to bet on like year statistics, year-long statistics. It's kind of skewed in my
Yeah.
opinion. So I'm a little worried to touch those. So I think I'm just gonna watch this game and enjoy it. And then I'll ride what Kyle gave you guys. I'll ride that with him. But I'm more so just going to be watching this game to enjoy the game. Um, and that's pretty much all for the Notre Dame game.
Yeah, we're kind of doing these bets a bit different than the NFL bets. So if you guys like the change, let us know. We kind of have we're both betting all of these bets, but we're like there's the bets I came up with and the bets Connor came up with because we have I guess I think it's more of we have more biased opinions in college football because all three of our teams, our favorite teams, are alive in this, and just I guess the way conferences tend to have loyalty supporters where you don't really get that in the NFL. So we're kind of certain things I didn't want to be the one to bet it just because it's like the teams I like and the conference I support, and then same thing with Connor. So we'll let you know which ones are whose, but we're both betting them and we'll be tracking them together to see how we did. So don't shy away from betting both of them. But and then moving on into, or do you have anything else for the Notre Dame game?
No, I said everything.
All right, and then I think that game's good. I mean, they're all going to be good. It's the playoff, but I think this is the most exciting one. At noon on Saturday. Unfortunately, I am going to have to be bowling with my family for part of this game. But SMU at Penn State, I think, is the most exciting game to me. The lines really haven't moved much. The over has moved up a couple points, and but everything else really, the spread's the same, 8.5. I think people in Big Ten supporters like Penn State to cover because they don't believe in SMU, and I think ACC people and even other pe people that know SMU think they can hang with Penn State nicely, and everybody knows the stats on Penn State in these slots against ranked teams. My bet for this game is basically Penn State winning band 1 to 18, but you can't do that. So I have a parlay of Penn State money line and SMU alt spread plus 18.5. That comes out to plus 102 again. So just under a unit to win 1 unit. So it's like I said, it's basically a straight bet of the winning band, but I did technically have to make it in the form of a parlay. I thought I was cooking on this one, a little creativity there. And then kind of what you got for this one.
So I went that one with you. Like Kyle said, we're kind of just doing separately, but with each other. So I did that, and then I also just have a straight bet for this game, and it's just SMU plus 8.5. I like SMU, especially after I've liked them all season. I've been an advocate of them all season. I'm vocal about my dislike towards the ACC, but I do think SMU is a good team. And then after watching them in the ACC championship against Clemson, that kind of solidified
Yeah.
it.
Second half, man.
Yeah, that second half, like they played a legit team, a reputable team, and they played very well against them in the second half. And I think they'll do the same against Penn State, especially since I'm not the biggest Penn State supporter. I think Penn State is fairly fraudulent at times, especially in big games. Um, and I see Penn State playing this close. I'm not saying SMU is going to win. I do think Penn State will win this game, but I think it's going to be closer than everybody else expects it, and that than the books expect it. So I'm taking plus 8.5 for SMU.
Yeah, this one should be a good one. I think people are worried about the weather for SMU, but it being a day game doesn't really support that. They're like, oh, there's snow on the field. They're gonna remove the snow. It's
Yeah.
not
The
uh
daytime conditions are
easy
like
game.
it's cold, it'll be like 30 something, but it's gonna be sunny, like partly
My
cloudy.
thing is, Penn State hasn't faced a mobile quarterback like Kevin Jennings. So
Yeah.
I think we've seen teams tend to struggle the first time against a mobile, like early in the season. I think it's what, past 2 years now. Bama early in the season with Milrow has been like disgustingly good. And then the end of the season, it's like, oh, how did we lose to this team? It's because the first time you see a mobile quarterback is tough. It's like even Vanderbilt was st hot to start the season with Pavia as like the first look you get at a mobile quarterback, like the run Johnny Manziel had, and then like once you figure him out, like that was a multiple year thing, but it's the same concept with these guys in a season. So Penn State really, this is the most athletic quarterback they faced, and we even saw Will Howard and his athleticism give Penn State trouble. So um, that's kind of why I like SMU there. I do think Penn State wins, so I guess ideally we want to see Penn State win, but no more than 8 points for both of our bets to hit. But I think we're in the right direction in this game here.
Yeah. And both of our bets kind of they work with each other, so it's not
Yeah,
like
it's
we
like
both
it's the
have bets
same
that
concept. I did it a little differently, really.
yeah, exactly. Um Then the next game, this is a game that Kyle's looking forward to. He took off work for this game. He's been looking forward to this game. Um, I like this game. It's going to be Clemson playing in Texas against Texas at 4 o'clock on Saturday. The line currently, Texas is 12-point favorites. That's on ESPN. I know on FanDuel they're 11.5 point favorites. We'll get into why I know that in a minute. What did you really bet on this game, Kyle?
I did. I tried not to be too, Clemson fan here. But I did take the Clemson alt over 20.5 points. Again, plus 102. I don't know how all of my bets ended up being plus 102 this week or for this college football playoff, but I mean it's a good number because it's plus money and it's basically a 50-50 chance. I think Clemson can score 3 touchdowns. I think they've learned. Garrett Riley said it publicly that they kind of took their foot off the gas for no apparent like people. Clemson fans are mad that he's saying they took the foot off the gas, but in the South Carolina game and the SMU game because it was like they shifted. It's basically saying we shifted from our normal offensive throwing the ball because their freshman receivers, mainly Bryant Wesco, has been really good, like quick strike offense. He's very fast. Um, but they to do like a chew clock to try to, milk the game out, and it screwed them both times. They end up losing to South Carolina. Kind of that South Carolina game was like what I mean with SMU, like first time facing a mobile quarterback, that helped Clemson going into the SMU game, facing Sellers and then going to face Jennings. But then facing SMU, they go up big and then they just coast, and then all of a sudden it's tied, and they had to wake up and they end up winning. So, um, as bad as that second half was, I think it's a positive because they did win and they get in the college football playoff. I'm mad about the matchup because I was telling my dad if it was, I think all of the other three places, I would legitimately probably be going to the game if the tickets were reasonable. Like Ohio State's only 8 hours from my house, Penn State's 6 hours, and I imagine Notre Dame's like 10, but Texas is a day and a half, so not doing that one. But the others, I'd probably at least consider it heavily
Yeah.
driving out to that. Because I like being the one kid rooting for the away team at a home game. I like being that guy. Like every year, I'll wear all my Yankee jerseys and go to Fenway and just yell the whole time. Love doing that. So, and Clemson being in South Carolina, I really had the chance because like all their major away games are like even further away. Like I've watched them play at Syracuse, but Syracuse has no atmosphere. So, but yeah, I'm taking Clemson over 20.5 points. Um, I don't know. I think they can put up 21 at the least, or three touchdowns.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think so. For me, I'm taking one singular straight bet, and that's going to be Clemson plus 11 and a half in this game. I got that at minus 110. I really like Clemson in this game. I was telling Kyle before, um, I just love Clemson in this game. I don't know why. Texas has been playing really rough recently. They're just not the Texas that they have been, and they're not on a heater. I mean, they lost to South Carolina last week of the season, but they're just fresh off an ACC championship win, and for
but
some
they
reason,
would
Clemson's
be
that
on
team
a
you can't
heater though.
count
That's
out.
my thing.
They what?
Like Clemson would be considered on a heater if we beat South Carolina, we would be in the playoff anyway, not even having to play SMU.
Yeah,
Like
they
if
would have
Miami,
been in as an at-large without that South Carolina loss.
yeah. So most
But
likely,
I'm a big fan of Clemson. Be on a lookout on the Twitter because there might be more bets coming with that game as we get closer, as I look more into it and depending on how I feel towards the game. But
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Clemson in that game, and I definitely think that 12-point spread on ESPN and the 11 and a half. I think it's way too much, especially for Clemson.
It
They're
started
not
at
a true
10 and a
12 seed
half.
in my opinion.
It started at yeah. Well, they're technically lower from their
Yeah,
rankings, but
yeah, but I'm saying
still
like
has them at like 13.
when I
I
picture a
think
12 seed, I'm picturing like a group of five team that like
yes. Well, I
isn't.
think it's more of Texas isn't really a five. Like I
Yeah,
in my head
exactly.
they're
Well,
like a
both
seven
teams
or an
aren't
eight.
what they represent if you think
Like
about it. Like Texas should not be five.
Georgia was ranked seventh, and they just beat Texas, and Texas only falls to five, which is technically the overall three seed. Like it doesn't, they should be, like closer to the seven where Georgia was. So that's why I was mad that Clemson had to play Texas. But also, I got Clemson at plus 12 because I'm also rocking with what Connor's rocking with. So make sure you shop around on that one. This one started at 10 and a half, and that's like, a touchdown and a field goal to get to the 10. So this one being, 11, 12. A little more wiggle room there. Those are like the weird numbers that you don't see too much in football. But it's not quite two touchdowns, but maybe we've seen the weird numbers happen, like the Monday night 15-9, stuff like that. So
Exactly. Exactly.
out of the possibilities. And then I think this is the overall like consensus big game of the weekend. Like
100%.
technically the closest spread. They made it the Saturday night game for a reason. We have Tennessee and Ohio State. I know Connor's got a lot to say about it, but I'll be quick. The spreads pretty much stayed the same, opened at 7. It's now 7.5 most places. I don't think we really ever looked at the spread too much in this one. It's
Mhm.
total points, right?
Yeah, yeah. My bet is total points. I took the under 46 and a half for that game at minus 110 also. Um, I just see the under hitting. The under, it doesn't hit. I mean, I feel like it doesn't hit as often as it should, especially Tennessee's beginning of the season is very skewed for their under stats because they played like teams like Kent State and
Yeah,
Chattanooga
exactly.
and UTEP. They played UTEP at the end of the year and things like that. But when they play good teams, it's a low scoring game. I'm very hesitant with Tennessee's offense. I'm very worried because Tennessee comes out of stretches like this where they've been sitting for weeks on end. They come out of this very slow. That's why we lost to Arkansas, came out of the bye week, and then couldn't score in the first three quarters or something against Arkansas, and that's part of the reason why we weren't able to claw back at the end of the game, and that's why that's one of our uglier losses. Um, and it started that spell where we had 4 weeks in a row where we didn't score in the first half, which is insane for a Tennessee-esque offense. But then you kind of assume that identity throughout the rest of the season. You know, Tennessee's just not that deep threat team like they were when they had Hooker and Hyatt and all that. But we have an SEC Player of the Year running back in Dylan Sampson. He's an absolute stud, and so I see Tennessee trying to run the ball out with Dylan. Tennessee's defense is good. The only worry that I do have is Ohio State's passing game getting going. I think if Ohio State's passing game gets going, Ohio State will run away with that game faster than anybody knew. Um, that'll be detrimental. Like that's the one situation where Ohio State runs away with the game that's not even close, is if Ohio State can throw the ball like no other against Tennessee on Saturday.
You got some elite receivers over there.
They got good receivers, and Tennessee has a really good defensive back in Gerard McCoy. And then they got Boo Carter, and he's pretty good. He's young though; he's a freshman. But I don't know exactly how deep they go when it comes to their DBs. But I know Ohio State has a lot of depth in their wide receivers, and then they can also run the ball too. So
Their
they're
passing game is really more dependent on Will Howard than their
yes.
receivers because I've seen him miss like wide open throws.
So if we could
Um,
put pressure on them, that'd be good because Tennessee
yeah,
has a
he's like of the other quarterbacks in the playoff, he's not one of the ones considered to be like a next level guy, and that's very obvious. Like he's your uh, peaked in college quarterback, like the just
again,
next
Notre
level
Dame
really.
quarterback ever, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, he would be.
Yeah, he'd
Um,
be good with us.
But the one thing I will say is Notre Dame or Tennessee money line is up to plus 240, so at plus 195. So that means money is coming in on Ohio State side if you're one of the people that like to bet against the trend there. So that is because I think we pointed out that the Tennessee money line was kind of low for the spread being that high, and compared to the other games where the SMU is like 8.5, and their money line's already started at 240. It was SMU opened at plus 8, money line 240, Tennessee plus 7, money line plus 195. So it was like kind of a uh, big drop there. But one other thing, based on what or like I kind of thought of this as you were on your preview there, Connor. Um, like you kind of got to look at the coaches. Like these teams aren't used to having a week off, and I know it's different. But when we would have the normal college football playoff, and they'd have like 3 weeks off going into a game, and like Tennessee's had 2 weeks off, Ohio State 2 weeks off because they weren't in the conference championship. Everybody else has had a bye. Um, Notre Dame and Indiana 2 weeks off both. You kind of got to look at the coaches like Bama, Clemson, Georgia. They always would come out in the playoff like ready to go with the 3 weeks off. Ohio State sometimes would lay an egg. Notre Dame with Brian Kelly would lay an egg.
Yeah.
I
Notre
feel like
Dame's notorious for that.
yeah, not Marcus Freeman's different, but
This is his
like
first like
yeah.
playoff appearance.
Like I could see Steve Sarkisian, Ryan Day, Heupel, like not like their team's just not like the what they did over the week not being the week off not being good enough compared to the teams. Like and same with James Franklin too. We don't know too much about SMU. Like they don't really haven't made it, but I could so see Franklin like to have accomplishing nothing all week with especially with Prabula. I can't say his name, but with him now transferring, I think we're gonna complain about the transfer portal coming up to the end of this video. But like you look at the coaches, like I could just see like that's why we like the under, especially my bet here for this Tennessee Ohio State game. I have the under 9.5 at plus 102 for just the first quarter. So really, if there's no touchdown in the first quarter, I'm good. Um, so like yeah, if these teams come out flat, I think they're gonna try to run the ball first. So that'll
See
chew
that.
clock for me in the first quarter, and just under 9.5. So really, if we have you know only two scores, as long as there's no touchdown, we're good. Or I guess three field goals would we'd be safe. But I could just see like I could see Ryan Day not functioning until the second half, where he's like, all right, screw what we just tried to add the past 2 weeks. Let's just go back to what was working against Indiana or what was working against Oregon when they actually scored points against a good team for
Yeah.
the only time all season.
Well, I can see Tennessee doing the same thing because I feel
Yeah,
like this is a prime example of
they're
them
gonna
coming out
overcoach.
and putting training wheels on Nico. They will put training
They're
wheels on him.
overcoaching.
Yeah, it's the coaching. They'll come out and they'll be like, "Hey Nico, like let's throw these little screen passes. Let's throw it to the flat. Let's do a little curl. Let's do a little slant. Like let's all this small bullshit." and then you get no yardage. You just got three and out, three and out, three and out, three and out, and then you're just relying on your defense. Your defense is going to get gassed because it's a three and out after three and out. And then you're in a situation like we were against Arkansas where you're down 17 going into the third quarter or whatever, with 14 or something like that. Like something stupid going into the third quarter. And then you kind of like you just like against a team like Ohio State, you can't do that. That's why I think the under is a good bet. Like I think that's gonna hit no matter what. But the
Really,
other thing is
did you
uh,
say it? I feel like did I
yeah, I
miss
said it.
that?
I
All
said
right,
it.
it was under 46 and a half minus 110. I must have zoned out.
Yeah, but that's that bet. If that hits, I like Tennessee's odds. If that under
Yeah,
hits,
Tennessee, if the under is working, like if it's under 40, I think Tennessee is a better chance.
I think Tennessee might win. But if the
Ohio State
over
tends
hits,
to not
Tennessee's not
function in
winning.
close games.
Yeah, Tennessee for some reason like they just their offense is not powerful like that. Like they can score quick, but it's not that you just throw it up offense. And so
Yeah,
we'll
well, you
see
don't
what
have the
happens.
receivers Ohio State has.
Yeah, exactly. We have good receivers, but they're not Ohio State's receivers. They have elite receivers. So
Yes.
but we'll see what happens. I'm excited for it. That's my game that I'm gonna be watching on Saturday night. I'm so excited for that. And then the Notre Dame game, obviously, I'm really hyped for
Yeah,
that.
it's really a great weekend.
Yeah.
Like we got three great college football games on Saturday, a nice solo queue for Notre Dame and Indiana on Friday night, and we got even some NFL games mixed in that people have mixed feelings about. But it's more to watch, so can't complain. And then I got something that I know Connor isn't too happy about. I had to take Georgia plus 500 to win the Natty. I threw a half unit on this, so this was it's just too it's like my theory here is they're doing nothing, so their odds are probably going to drop because I think one of these four teams is going to get upset. So if one of these heavy favorites to win the Natty drops, like if Texas or Ohio State drop, or like higher on the favorite sheet to win the national championship, even Penn State, who is directly in the path of Georgia, if they lose, that it's going to up Georgia's odds. Or if Notre Dame loses and then Indiana plays Georgia, but then I think Georgia beats either Indiana or Notre Dame, which is why Connor doesn't like that. Besides, Georgia's also a rival of Tennessee. But so I think Georgia will be sitting nicely in the Final Four there, and then that plus 500 will be like plus 270, plus 300. So them, doing very little we'll get the odds to bump, and then maybe I can just double my money on a cash out or a hedge, depending how it goes. But I'm not like picking Georgia to win the national championship. I just think there's value in them being plus 500 compared to what the lines are for Ohio State and Oregon. And like after that potential Ohio State Oregon game, if Georgia moves on with one of those other teams being out, it's really going to be Georgia and pretty much the winner of that game. And Georgia would have who would they have? They would have
They'd have what and if they won
Penn
beat Notre
State,
Dame.
if they make it this far,
Yeah,
they'd
they'd
have
likely have Penn
Penn
State.
State, Boise team, Penn State, Boise, or SMU if
Yeah.
Georgia gets this far. So it'd either be Georgia versus Penn State, Boise, or SMU going into the Final Four versus, and then the other side would probably be like Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas, who are going to have much more like the handle for national championships. Where like Georgia has the easy path. That's why um, I think I can make money on this Georgia bet. But I did do it small, so. We'll see
Yeah.
how much I can milk out of it.
I not it's I have a future as well, but it kind of goes actually it's complete opposite of what you
You
have.
got Notre Dame, don't you?
I have well, it's not Notre Dame to make
No.
what is, but it's Notre Dame to lose to Oregon in the championship game. So that's
And yours is much larger.
yeah, that's the future I have, but it's a plus 1,900 odds. So that's kind of just like one of those long shot bets that because if you guys watched our last episode, I don't know if I was it's not no, it won't be our last episode by the time
The bracket video. The
but if you
bracket
watch
video.
our bracket video, I in both of my brackets I picked Oregon beating Notre Dame in the championship game. So I was like, shit, like I guess I'll ride with it as a bet. Not saying it's gonna hit, but what do you know? Just in
If it
case.
happened twice, happens three times, right? I don't know.
Exactly.
Um,
You got to ride with your gut sometimes.
and then I got like a long shot future that I'm a big fan of this one as well. I took the North Carolina football team, now head coached by Mr. Bill Belichick, over 7.5 wins is plus 114 on FanDuel. I threw 3 units on this because I think it'll be super easy to hedge. So I'm gonna run through North Carolina's schedule in a bit, but um, plus 114 I think is great value. They were 6-6 this year. Couple games could have flipped the other way. Actually, let me pull up 2024 UNC football. Um, because I mean 6-6 is two close games off, and this is uh it's regular season win, so it's basically saying 8-4 or better. But they lost to NC State by 5. They lost to Georgia Tech by 7. They lost to BC somehow, who is awful. Lost to Duke by 1. So you flip these games, and they lost to James Madison by 20. So like you flip those games, and then they're there. You know what I mean? Like those are the like they shouldn't lose to James Madison. They probably shouldn't. Duke was probably the worst team they lost to. Duke or BC, but BC was on the road. So you flip those and then you're there immediately. And that's not even an account the fact that you probably should beat Georgia Tech and NC State at home, but they didn't. And then let's look at their looking at their 2025 schedule. They started with TCU, so I'm gonna call that a 50-50. Then you got 3 game stretch of Charlotte, Richmond, and UCF. Why they should win all 3 of those. Like that's their non-conference. They should probably be 4-0 in this. Like if they go 2-2, I'm mad. But they could realistically be 4-0 coming out of this. TCU is at home, so that helps, and then UCF is on the road. But I'm not super worried about UCF because they should have momentum from beating Charlotte and Richmond going into that one. Belichick's gonna get recruits, so it'll be a more talented team. We know he's a great like X's and O's coach. We saw what he did in New England. And then after that UCF game, your AC schedule, you go at Cal. That's also winnable. At NC State and then home for Clemson. You're lucky probably to go 1-1 in that stretch. So maybe you're 5-2, 4-3 here. But then you have home versus Duke. That should be a win. Duke did get Darian Mensah from Tulsa or from 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 Tulane. I'm sorry. It's one of those TU schools, which is weird how there's 2 of those. But so I think they can beat Duke late in the season, and then they have Stanford home, should win that one as well. That puts us at probably the worst end, 6-3. And then we play home versus Virginia, should win that one, 7-3. At Syracuse is a tough one. I think they'll be good next year. So 7-4, and then to finish it out, you play at Wake Forest, which I think is another winnable. So I count 8-4 on like the low end, maybe 7-5, but I think they're really looking at a 9-3 season from these 12 games. What do you think, Connor?
I think you're right. I
It's
think 8-4 is definitely manageable. That you definitely signed yourself up for a little bit of a sweat, but
yeah, and we're it's plus money though, so like
no, yeah,
uh
it's plus money.
I
Um,
think we'll be like I'll be able to just bet like I can bet against it towards the end of the season. So like if I take Syracuse money line or Wake Forest money line at the end of the season, if they're 7-4 going to that game, I can just bet half of what I bet on this on Wake Forest to win, and then I'm winning half of what I bet anyway. I think the NC State and Clemson games are the tough ones. But that's middle of the season, so who knows what's going on at that point. I don't really know what NC State's going on over there. They're kind of in an interesting spot, so maybe they beat NC State. I think Duke will be a test too, but then like Stanford, Virginia, and even Cal, I don't think so. I think Cal's quarterback is might end up transferring as well. So, um, just like UNC of all these teams, like besides Clemson, because they're weird with the portal, but they are starting, and maybe Syracuse. Like UNC is the team that's going to steal players. Nobody's really stealing players from UNC. Like they don't have Miami, they don't have FSU, even though they were bad. Clemson, they don't have SMU, who was good this year. Like Clemson's really the only power, so maybe they're like 11-1, and the one loss is to Clemson. Like that's the only like traditional power. Syracuse is probably going to be good.
yeah, I
Like
see.
10-2 is not out of the realm of possibilities here. Neither is 4, 5, and 7 though. So,
Yeah.
um,
I also
like
get a little sketchy because you look at coaches that have done something similar, like with Dion, and like that first year. I mean, now for example, UNC is not as bad as Colorado was, but that first
yeah,
year can be a struggle when you have so many new pieces to a
they
organization. It's
went from one
sketchy.
and 11 to bowl eligible, right? Or no, were they five
No,
and
they were
seven?
they were like 4-8, I
But
think,
they
or
were still 1-11 the year before.
yeah,
So,
so they had a bigger turnaround, but it's still a little sketchy. I think Belichick's definitely going to recruit though. He's going to recruit studs. It's going to
yeah,
be really easy. We're going to see North Carolina get good. A lot of people are talking about how they'll make the damn playoffs next year. I don't know about all that,
But
but
but it is an easy schedule. Like I was when I saw that they have that line on FanDuel, I was interested. And then when I saw it was I thought it would be 8.5. Like honestly, I thought it'd be 8.5. So I saw 7.5. I'm like, I'm gonna take this. I'm sure they're getting more money on the over here. So I guess I'm kind of surprised that that's what the odds are. But like
yeah,
they're 6-6 this year and they lost to James Madison. Like I know James Madison is good for their level, but North Carolina should not be losing to James Madison. And
there's
like they
no
played
doubt.
Charlotte, like they got Charlotte and Richmond are just straight up free wins.
Yeah,
They don't have Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's one of the traditionally better ACC teams.
yeah,
They don't have to like play in any of the crazy environments, I think. Like they played at BC this year, which is weird, like weather-wise for a North Carolina team. Like they play Syracuse, which is in a dome. They end with Wake Forest on the road, which is I like an hour from where they are, I think. I'm not great with North Carolina maps, but like even Clemson they have at home, like that would be like if they're both undefeated at this point, like that's game day. Like that'd be a great game.
yeah, it would.
That's gonna be a great week of college football. I don't know what else is going on, but Clemson, I'm assuming is gonna be good with Klubnik coming back. UNC with Bill Belichick is gonna get tons of attention. So
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll be good, and then I think they'll be very good in the next few years. Give him a couple years to recruit. He'll be and kind of like
yeah,
put his system in place, make it so that it's his, his culture. That then they'll be a really scary
like
team. It'll be good.
UNC in the past lost the game to Clemson because they wanted to go for two to try to win it instead of play overtime. That's not gonna happen to Bill Belichick.
And
Like they're not gonna mess around. They're not gonna
especially with
have,
college overtime, especially with
yeah,
college
they're not
overtime.
gonna have dumb penalties. Like
Yeah,
it's Bill Belichick. Like maybe he does something completely different, but I don't see that happening.
He's an
But what do
elite
I?
coach. He's an elite coach.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
they're talking about how there's a lot of similarities now with the NFL with the money involved in college football, so that might be a strong point for
yeah.
him.
And I think he's gonna have people do that. But that kind of brings us into the transfer portal. I'm sure he's gonna use the transfer portal. I think my biggest issue with the transfer portal, besides the fact that you can do it as many times as you want, is although I use that as a college athlete myself. Um, But I hate how guys are leaving teams that could make like the 12 or even the 3 or 4 because we see Boise in there and Arizona State for like other less exciting schools. Like Darian Mensah leaving Tulane, who had a good year, lost the ACC champ or AAC championship, to go to Duke is such like isn't it, doesn't it seem lateral to you? Like it
Yeah,
makes
it
no
is.
sense to me. And then even Malik Murphy leaving Duke, who had a good year. Duke finished a decent season. Like they could build something there. His first year as a starter. He's like, no, I want to leave. I want to go back to a bigger program, I imagine. Get more money, whatever. Probably gonna go end up back in the SEC and one of them random like Auburn or no, Auburn got did Auburn get somebody? Did I miss that? One of them
Uh,
teams got
no, I
somebody.
don't think so.
I
They
know
all
one
talk
of
about this Deuce Knight dude.
Arkansas
That's all
maybe.
they talk about.
Yeah, like one of those teams. Well, or like maybe like Thomas Castellanos went from BC to Miami. It's like, bro, just stay at BC and
Hmm.
win there. You're in the same conference. You're gonna get the same spot whether you do it at BC or Miami. Like that bothers me a little
Yeah.
bit. Like I think Jackson Arnold is going from uh
Oh
Oklahoma
yeah,
to
he's in the
Auburn.
portal. Yeah. Oh yeah,
One
yeah.
of
I
them.
think he might go to Auburn. You're right, I think.
Yeah, so like
It
why are we
sucks though.
moving same conference, bro?
Yeah. Well, and it's just like they do that and then they screw themselves. They really do. Like instead of staying with a
Yeah.
team where they know their place, they know where they're going to be, they transfer to some
Build
school.
something.
They have some stupid shit happen to them. I'm trying to think of an example of this. There's
TJ Finley
yeah, like there's
transferred
plenty
from
of guys.
Auburn. And then he tried to go back. I forget where he was, but he went to Western Kentucky, did good, went somewhere else and was bad again. It's like, bro, just like go ball out at these. Like we
Or
see
even
dudes get
McCall. He transferred out.
drafted.
He transferred out of
He did
Coastal.
good.
He goes
His
to
was,
NC
oh
State.
yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking McCord. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
McCall's a good example.
yeah. McCall was at Coastal. He was that guy at
Balling.
Coastal. He
They're
was
like
he
he
was
had, yeah.
the stud at Coastal, and then he goes to NC State and he shits the bed. And
Like look
now,
what Ashton Genty did. Like, can everybody like stay at your place, ball
yeah,
out, have a great season, make the playoff, and then eventually, like, we'll get the respect of. I mean, I guess not the respect. That's probably the wrong word, but like, if everybody starts staying at these mid majors, then the mid major record will be better because all these other like NFL guys on these teams. And then Ashton Genty won't get snubbed for a Heisman because it's at Boise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah. Look at who he played. He ran for
I
all these
always, I
yards, but look
love
at who he
to see
played.
that. Yeah.
So
Um, but yeah, that like the portal bothers me. Like especially in the timing of it. Like we got to make it after the playoff. Like Penn State's backup quarterback, who they consistently use in like running packages, is leaving the program to transfer because he's not because Aller announced he's coming back, which is good. I like Aller for that because he's not going to be. He can try to improve his draft stock. I hope Milrow does the same because
I
that'd
don't know if he
be
will. It'd be
it's. I
smart though.
think it's he's got to. I think he's got to weigh out his draft stock.
Yeah. But
Um, But yeah, that's I think he might use it as leverage. So like if he gets the team he wants to go play for in the NFL to say we're gonna take you, then he'll declare. But if it's like, oh, if one of the dumpster organizations in the NFL is like, yeah, we want Jalen. Like if the Titans are like, yeah, Jalen, we want you, he's gonna be like, yeah, I'm going back to college.
yeah, I'll just play another year. Yeah.
So
But yeah, I think it's good for players to
it's
utilize
good.
it.
Like there's plenty
It's
of good like
it's abused. It's abused. It's one of those
yeah,
things that
like
it's a good thing.
McCord's a great scenario or
What?
example. Kyle McCord.
Yeah,
That's a great example of it being good.
exactly.
They ran him
Like
out of Ohio State and he balled out at Syracuse.
even now, I'm not gonna say Riley Leonard balled out, but it's a good example for Riley Leonard. He was at Duke last year. He transfers
But
to
Duke's
Notre
not
Dame, and now he's in the
terrible.
playoffs.
But
And
Duke
he
didn't
sucks.
like he could have done it at Duke. Like
No,
they
I
had
don't
the
think he could.
opportunity.
I don't think Duke was good enough.
No, I know, but like they're still Power Five. Like
No, yeah, yeah,
there's
they're good. But
ACC
like
teams in.
he transferred and made it to the playoffs. That's
Yes, but I like it more for the guys that get ran out that leave. Like if you're a starter, I think you should stay.
yeah, I mean that's fair. I agree with that. I agree with that. But
Like it's
also
not
Liberty's quarterback, for example, he's transferring. I don't know if he's
just
declared any
Salton.
Walters or whatever his last
Salt,
name is.
yeah,
And he's I don't think he's great. He just plays in the worst fucking conference in all of college football, so he looks
yeah, he's
better.
getting hyped up. But yeah, I don't know. It's such a crapshoot.
It is. And then just it
And
completely
then
destroys bowl games. We were talking about before this. We were like, do we talk about bowl
yeah,
games?
the
And we're like,
Tulane game,
we
they
can't
got
even talk
nothing.
about fucking bowl games. Memphis had to, or not Memphis.
Tulane.
Marshall had to back out of their
Yes,
bowl
Marshall
game
had
with
to
the
back
Army.
out.
Marshall
Yeah.
backed out of their bowl game with the Army because they
Bro,
didn't have
and how does
players.
Army not have a better bowl game? They
Dude,
should
I
have been
know. That's what I was
already in
wondering.
the
Navy
playoff.
Navy is playing Oklahoma and Army is playing Louisiana Tech.
Bro, Army should have had like South Carolina or something.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how it
Or
happened.
like Michigan.
Yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous.
That yeah, it is.
It's
But
one of those things we could rant on all day. Maybe we'll make another episode. Let us know if you want to hear another episode on just the transfer portal, because I'm sure we're going to talk about it at some point during the offseason.
yeah,
Um,
because I'm sure it's gonna get worse.
oh, it will. It will. But in regards to our bets for this upcoming weekend, that's all we have for those bets.
We're
Um,
locked in.
Pay attention on our Twitter. It's an NGB underscored podcast. That's where we're gonna keep you guys up to date on extra bets that we add. We talked about that in our last episode when we did the NFL recap. So just keep up on that, and you guys can see when we make bets that we didn't make on this podcast. Um, but yeah, other than that, we went over our bets. We will see you guys tomorrow for our NFL bets. We'll go over that, and then I'm sure next week is going to be pretty exciting when we recap college football, especially if it goes well for Kyle or I or both. And then we'll also be recapping our NFL next week. So next week's going to be a huge week for us. So I'm pretty excited for that. But you got any closing thoughts, Kyle, or are you good?
Oh, I think this is just the biggest stretch of NFL and CFP season, so it's
Yeah,
super exciting for us and all of you, I guess.
yeah, it's huge. So with all that said, we'll see you guys next time. All right, you guys have a good one in the meantime.